Happy New Year, everyone. This is Vince Wells signing in again, and I apologize for the lack of content lately. I decided to put out something creepypasta related because I haven't done that in a long time. I hope you all had a good New Year. I'm sitting here with a nice hot cup of hot chocolate with marshmallows because I'm special and I deserve nice things. For those who aren't aware of it or aren't subscribed to Fish Stick on a Sticks channel, and if you're not, I'll post something in the description, a link to his channel. I was on a live stream of his for a very brief moment, maybe like 10 minutes in a 2 hour live stream. And he was reading, or attempting to read. It was a bit of a clusterfuck. There were a lot of people there because it was something he was doing with his fans. The Sonic.Exe remake. Now, when I heard that he was doing that, I just rolled my eyes like, oh, some jokester, some fan made their official remake. I thought it was just probably some weird project that either a troll or a genuine fan of JC the Hyena made. No, this is the official Sonic.exe remake by quote Sir JC the Hyena 231. Apparently, while we weren't looking, he managed to muster up some kind of dark army and march all the way over back to the internet to conquer the land again. And he's starting off strong because this is, let me see this again, 68 pages long in a document format. So, I will be tackling this about 5 pages at a time because it's so fucking long. I can't imagine trying to do this in one straight shoot. It'll probably take me about 2-3 hours, and I'm gonna make a note to make my videos shorter so that people will be more inclined to want to watch them and not be put off by the long length of them. So here we go. This is Sonic.exe, the remake by Sir Jason Hyena. And again, real quick, if you're not subscribed to Fish Stick on a Sticks channel, do it. He is one of the better creepypasta related content creators out there. He's does reviews and retrospectives. He did a decent retrospective on the Marble Hornet series and all the other Slenderman series, and kind of ranks them from, in his personal opinion, from best to worst. And I find him quite enjoyable. I would recommend his. I'm speaking as a fan. Recommend his later work because I think he openly admits this. He tried to kind of channel Mr. Plinkett at times, and while I love Mr. Plinkett too, it works for him, not for most other people. But anyway, let's get on to this. I do like this kind of cheesy opening right here with the red X. Get it? Because Sonic.exe, Sonic.Exe, blah blah blah. Let's see. Why does mankind exist? A question that has been a most frustrating topic among members of the human race since its beginning long, long ago, and every man, woman, and child has had their own unique answer. To the religious, they thought God had created mankind in His image. I mean, if you no, never mind. I'll comment at the end of this. His image. To the scientific, humanity is naturally superior in the ongoing race of evolution and survival. To the average everyday individual, the human exists for no other reason than except just because. Humans are truly, truly an interesting creature. Thousands of years ago, we figured out how to make wonders of art and how to hurt another with a weapon. What? I think you should hurt each other with weapons. Oh. Thousands of years later, from now, we'll have mastered interstellar travel and will extend our existence across the stars, maybe even beyond. Well, if that super volcano in Yellowstone Park erupts in 2034, I think it was, that's not really going to happen unless we can bounce back from that. But that's not something that's quite easy to bounce back from. They said it might erupt, but whatever. Uh, and yet we have a lot of flaws in spite of our apparent brilliance. For centuries, we prayed to an invisible deity. We've hated and raged against each other for reasons big and small. We've expressed absolute happiness and sorrow. We've cowered. It's taken a long time since it's so long. In irrational fear, and every action we've ever made spawns some kind of innate desire within us. Yet, in spite of this, we still exist. We're still human. Then comes another question, one that's also a frustrating topic among humans. Are we alone? Is there a life outside this world of ours? If so, what do they like? How do they live? More importantly, what do they think of us? Maybe they have their own unique reason on why we exist. Maybe they want to educate and guide us to a bright future. Maybe they want to destroy us, see us as a threat. Maybe they don't care much for us and see us like insects, thus don't pay us any mind. Or maybe someone wants us. Maybe there's someone or something out there right now looking at us, desiring us, like a child would at a toy store. Maybe they think the reason we exist is so they could own us. This is a story of such forces existing inside our world. A nameless darkness, a faceless evil that hungers for humanity. As you read in the first chapter of this saga, you'll be taken into a world of paranoia, mystery, sadness, madness, and you'll follow the adventures of a young man who inadvertently thrusts himself into something inexplicable and discovers parts of something that utterly defy reasoning within him and forces him to into a desperate struggle for survival. This is the first chapter. Okay, a few things here. Well, for one, I can't really take this seriously. I get that this is Jason Hyena's magnum opus. The fact that it's this long for a creepypasta, he wants this to stand the test of time, and he's really kind of going guns blazing and trying to set a good first impression. The problem with this is it falls flat immediately when you consider the fact that this is a story about an entity who wants to take the form of a cartoon video game character, Sonic the fucking Hedgehog. There's a reason why NES Godzilla and Ben Drown work the way they do. They are one-off, very personal stories. Like they come off as personal accounts from the people who are, the narrators. And while I'd argue that NES Godzilla kind of goes off the rails in the later half of the story, it knows that to ground the story in some form of reality is to have it easier for the reader to connect. The horror doesn't necessarily come from the fact that it's a video game character or it's doing something very abnormal. It's really the video games and the characters that are being used are a backdrop to what's happening to the protagonist and what the protagonist is experiencing at the moment. And they know that these characters taking off these evil entities and weird malicious spirits or whatever they are, like NES Godzilla or Ben from Ben Drowns. They are not frightening because they pervert the image of something that we're familiar with. I mean that kind of helped a little bit, but it's not really the selling point. They work because they are characters within themselves. And once those creepypasta really take off, the game is just a catalyst for everything. The problem is you want some of the horror in the Sonic.Exe comes from the fact that there's something different within the games, and the characters are feeling sympathetic towards game characters who, in our perception, are just characters. And to basically sum up what I'm trying to say is, I can't take this very lofty dialogue seriously because this is a grand concept that you're trying to put forward. This lofty dialogue and this diatribe about the nature of human existence is all eventually going to have to tie back into Sonic the Hedgehog. You can't. You've lost right away. And my secondary point was basically about the very questionable thing to say, like, oh well, the religious believe, like, well, religions people are very, like, that's a very broad term. I mean, I guess Christians do make up Christians and Muslims make up the majority of people who believe in a higher being and a religious structure in the world. But at the same time, that doesn't account for the many people who believe in very vague and very more. I would say I wouldn't. I don't want to use the word nuanced, but there's a diverse range of religions. So saying that it's just they believe in one thing is just kind of a generalization. People, same thing with people with scientific perspective. I've met plenty of people who view things in a more analytical perspective, who don't think very highly of the human race in terms of our potential to evolve, and think that it was a matter of coincidence more than anything else that we happen to eventually become bipedal and creatures of higher thinking. Uh, but those are minor things in the long run. My first complaint was really the biggest problem: the fact that this will be dead on arrival the moment you tie this into Sonic the Hedgehog. And I'm predicting that right now, and I don't like to make a judgment before I've even read any further. But that's a natural conclusion. It's like trying to write about, I don't know, the complex nature of molecules and atoms, and somehow finding a way to tie that into fucking I don't know, Kirby. Like, it doesn't matter how well written it is. You can't. You simply can't and do that and maintain the reader's interest. It's like that fucking Bob Chipman with that piece of shit book. What was it? It was supposed to be a step-by-step guide to Super Mario Brothers 3, and he's using analogies referring to the console wars as his own personal Vietnam. What the fuck is wrong with you at that point, you know? Um, but yeah, let's continue. This is the first chapter, and before I go on, let me take a sip of my hot chocolate before it gets cold. Hmm. You'd think why don't they sell cold chocolate? Anyone ever asked that question? They sell like frozen, like kind of like milk. I know there's chocolate milk, but whatever. But then again, hot chocolate can just be milk. Then why just call it hot chocolate? Why not call it hot chocolate milk? But some of them don't need milk. See, I ask the important questions. This is the shit that should have been asked in the last election. Then we would have had the candidate that we can all been happy with. Thomas Miller, a young lad starting out on his second year of college. Thomas, or Tom for short, was pretty much your average run-of-the-mill college student. Handsome, dark, neck-length hair, always wearing a vest over his turtleneck, as college students are wont to do, and of course is a kind-hearted intellectual with good grades and only a few friends. I'm being kind of presumptuous here. Like, is this Jason the Hyena's our author avatar? I'm not saying it is. I know people like to take pot shots at the guy, but that's what it feels like. Like, he's handsome, he's tall, he gets good grades, he's in college, and the fact that this story has officially been bumped up into college instead of just like having this thing sent to him, and like, well, granted, it is a better setting, but I have the sneaking suspicion that this is about. This is written from college, or the setting is in college, because now Jason Hyena is probably in college at the moment. That's just an assumption. I don't know. I think Jason Hyena was like 2021 the last time I checked. I don't really know. I think he's like 27 now. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Tom had just returned to his dorm room where he lived alone, finishing up his lessons for the day. Just like any other day, Tom's side of the college was a relatively quiet one, just the way he liked it, of course. Was a relatively, excuse me. He was never truly one who enjoyed a lot of noise going on around him, and preferred this year of college to be a relaxing one, for the most part. With all these protests going on, just good fucking luck. It was a Friday, and the weekend had just started. For Tom, this was always perfect opportunity to hang out with his friends. After putting down his backpack and kicking his shoes off, his cell phone buzzed. One of his friends had sent him a text message. Pulling the phone from his pocket, Tex read the message. It was from his pal Roger, who messaged, "Yo, man, so are we still on Tonight, Tom texted back. Oh yeah, for sure, dude. We've been looking to play some more Smash Bros with you. Uh, After a few minutes, Roger replied, "Awesome, BTW. Have you heard from Kyle yet?" Kyle Scott was Tom's best friend from high school. They had graduated together and now went to the same college. Kyle had always been sort of the reckless type, more reckless than Tom might have been anyway, but Tom always personally thought that it was Kyle's way of being adventurous, and even poked fun of his recklessness from time to time. However, for the past 3 weeks, Tom had not seen or heard from Kyle. He hadn't seen him during classes, and from time to time, he hadn't even seen him in classes. From time to time, he tried to contact him to see if he was busy or not. And at first, Kyle did sort of respond to him via text, though it was usually short replies of 1 or 2 words. But eventually, Kyle stopped responding altogether. Tom had assumed that his friend was just busy with something, but for 3 weeks, okay. I'm gonna again say my criticism until after the page is ended. Tom replied, "Not yet. I'm gonna try and stupid thing. Come on. I'm gonna not yet. I'm gonna try again in a little bit. If he doesn't respond this time, I'll check up on him tomorrow." After waiting a couple more minutes, Roger replied, "LOL, okay." Well, what was so funny, sir? LOL says laugh out loud. What was the humor to be derived from that situation? Our friend hasn't been seen for some time. Okay, I will go see about it tomorrow. That's how are you saying that that's how this interaction would take place if you were in person? You find someone going to verify the whether or not their friend is okay to be funny? Tom sat down on his couch and looked out the window, showing the rest of the college campus, thinking. Okay. He thought about what to say when he texted Kyle. Wondered if Kyle will finally respond to him. He first considered texting him again, but changed his mind, deciding instead to call him. So he brought up his phone, found Kyle's number, and dialed him again. Bringing the cell to his ear, he waited as it was ringing. No response. Then came Kyle's message. I'm bad at reading things out loud. Hey there, this is Kyle. I'm not here right now, but go on and leave a message. After that, a beeping indicating that you would leave your message. Tom hesitated but spoke. Hey Kyle, it's me, Tom. Just checking up on you again. Listen, for the... Okay, stop. Checking up on you again, for the 57th time, probably. Listen, man, it's been like 3 weeks since we last spoke. Where are you? Anyway, me and a couple of the guys are going to play some Smash later tonight. I think it'd be cool if you tagged along with us. Hope you get this message. See ya. Whatever. Okay, I think that's the end of the page. Sorry I'm stuttering over myself. As I said, I'm bad with reading things out loud. Okay, 3 weeks. Now, that one-off thing where he called him and got a one text reply. You see, there's a problem here. If Kyle was regarded as a his character was that of a loner, doesn't go out and socialize that much, tends to disappear for moments at a time because he's just not that much of an outgoing person, and Tom maybe could be his antithesis where he's more friendly and outgoing, and they somehow gravitated toward one another, and they kind of have that group dynamic. Uh, that would make sense as to why Tom would not immediately check up on his friend after he's been gone for 3 fucking weeks. But Tom has been described as reckless and adventurous, and one of the things that attributes that kind of are associated with those two things are being outgoing, maybe a little bit affable and easygoing, maybe even very willing to talk to other people, basically. And the fact that this person has not showed up for 3 weeks, someone who has attributes that would basically be linked with those things I mentioned. No, he didn't think to check up on him. He didn't find anything suspicious about his one-word replies or 1 or 2 word replies. He didn't go to ask his like dorm mates or like people on his floor or the teachers if they've seen him or what they've heard about them because he has to eventually, eventually that they do bring it to their attention if just in case something might have happened. Shit happens on college campuses every now and again. They have to have some kind of contingency just in case the student doesn't show up for some period at a time, you know, to make sure that they aren't harmed or injured or away and just didn't notify anyone ahead of time. Like again, like you're trying to paint this in a more realistic light at this moment, but you failed because it's not natural to let your outgoing friend be alone or be away for 3 weeks without him notifying you where he's been, especially since you've been best friends since high school. That's not normal behavior. And he would have been worried after the first week, even if he has been texting him about him or call. He's been texting him only. He hasn't been calling him to see what he's been doing. And again, I don't know. Maybe later on we're gonna get more information about Kyle as a character, and so we can understand why it is that he wouldn't message him or or talk to him or try to attempt to call him ahead of time or talk to the teachers or anything like that. Maybe he just doesn't talk to anyone else. But I don't know. If that's the idea, then you should have done more to establish that Kyle is not the type who would answer his phone because then that would dispense with the idea that Tom is too stupid to call his friend instead of texting him, which anyone could have his phone, you know? Sorry about that. Come on. Again, this thing is really fucking long, so it takes us some time. Um, he ended the message. Fuck. Come on. He ended the message and then looked at a framed picture of him and his friend Kyle, back when they graduated and were having fun at the after party. Kyle was Kyle was in the picture, was a bit taller than Tom, had shorter, more blondish hair, and at the time wore a red shirt and black jeans. In the photo, Tom and Kyle smiled at the camera, and bro fisted each other during the party. Tom always had some sort of. Tom always sort of thought of Kyle as a brother, and looking back at the memory kind of made him feel a little sad. Not because of the memory itself, but because Kyle's current absence. Tom resolved to check on his friend even if he didn't show up tonight. Then go check on him right now. Wait, tonight? That tonight implies that there's some time between, uh, when your friends are coming over, and at the moment where he's looking at the photo, so that he has plenty of time to go check on him. What the fuck? It's not like he's busy with classes. After looking at the photo, he turned to look at his shelf, which was lined with some of the old video games and movies he owned. Tom loved video games. He was a bit of a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, like a lot of other people. You know what I like about that? I like how JC the Hyena in the original, that's supposed to be like a kind of cleanup of what he originally said was like, I'm a Sonic fan, much like everyone else. And I wouldn't describe most gamers as Sonic the Hedgehog fans, honestly. And I'm saying this as someone who likes Sonic the Hedgehog, as the video games, some of the modern games, and blah, blah, blah. Um, and he still can't bring himself to imply that, though. Like a lot of other people, somewhat implies a majority. So he had to make. I just like to think that he had to make some kind of compromise there. Well, not everyone's a Sonic fan, but most people are. I don't know. He likes newer games, but didn't mind. Oh my god, we're really doing this. Didn't mind the classes. He never played any of the hacked games that sprung up on the internet from time to time, and never saw any real reason to. After looking at it, well, I know that that's supposed to, I think that's supposed to, in the original story, that's supposed to imply that he wouldn't be able to tell whether or not the Sonic game was hacked or fan made, which is why he didn't recognize what was wrong with Sonic.Exe right away. And Here it implies that well, both of them really, but it was more emphasized here. He's aware that those hacked games exist, and thus he should be able to easily detect whether or not the game he's going to be playing is hacked or is fan made. But maybe he brings it up. I'm kind of jumping the gun a bit. After looking at the photo, he turned himself off video games. Let me see, where was I? After looking at his collection, he saw Smash Bros. Brawl amongst them. Melee's just so much better. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. I just had to say it. He got up and pulled the game out and looked at it, and then placed it in front of the TV for his friends, for when his friends came over. After that, he grabbed his laptop, sat back down on the couch, and did a little bit of studying for the next week. For next week, excuse me. Later that evening, Tom's friends Roger and Mike showed up just as planned, and they started playing Brawl together. Roger asked, "Hey, say Tom, Kyle's still not showing up, is he?" Tom sighed. "Yeah, I'm actually starting to worry. Not enough to actually go check on him when he has the chance to." Well, these smartphones. I'm gonna go to this place tomorrow to see what's up. Yeah, good idea, Mike explained. If he hasn't been responding to your calls, he could at least give you a good reason for face to face. Right. Tom then picked up the phone to order pizza for the guys. The next day, Tom started walking down the hall to meet up with Kyle, just as he promised. Kyle's dorm room was a floor below Tom's, so it was normally easy for the two of them to meet up between classes. With his hands in his pockets, like an anime character, he headed down the stairs and continued down another hall of. Come on. Fuck. Hall of doors until he reached the door that led to Kyle's room. He knocked on the door, hoping that his friend was there. "Kyle?" Tom called out. "You there, dude? It's me, Tom." Silence. Tom knocked again. "Kyle? It's been 3 weeks, man. Come on." No response. Tom gripped the doorknob and tried to turn. It's just. I had a brain fart. Tom gripped the doorknob and tried to turn it. It was locked. He then pressed his ear to the door. Nothing but absolute silence coming from the room. Maybe he's not here? Thought conclusively. And he couldn't have gone to class. It's Saturday. Fuck's sake, man. Groaning in frustration, he decided to head back to his own dorm room. Heading back up the stairs down the hall to his room, he stopped insultingly sitting on the door in front of his dorm room. It was a small package with a note attached to it. Tom looked at the package and on the floor before picking it up, looking around to see if whoever left it was still around. He went to his room and looking at he went into his room looking at the package. The folding note what is wrong with me today? The folded note taped to it had his name on it. The package was for him. Taking the note and opening it up, he began to read the letter. Much to his surprise, it was a letter written by Kyle, or at least what he thought was Kyle. He saw the name on the bottom first, but wasn't sure if it was his handwriting. Despite being friends for years, Kyle, for the life of him, couldn't remember what Kyle's handwriting looked like. Regardless, he continued reading. It started off pretty normal. A hello, how are you, regards to their friends and such. Rather lengthy apology regarding Kyle's absence also included. As the letter concluded, the writing seemed to be more jittery, as if Kyle was writing the letter in a hurry. He talked about why he was absent, explained he had found this great game he bartered from someone online, and has been spending several days playing it. He said it was a video game that no one's ever seen before, and he figured that he shared his so-called wonderful game with Tom. He greatly emphasized that Tom should play it just to see how fun the game is. The letter ended abruptly. There was no goodbye, no hi to their friends, no write back, no thank you, nothing like that. It was just his name, Kyle Scott. Tom scoffed bitterly. 3 weeks of not speaking to me, and this is your excuse, Kyle? Tossing the letter aside, he unwrapped the package and opened it. Inside, there was a CD-ROM disc in its case. There wasn't a cover or a label or what kind of game disc it was supposed to be. The case looked a bit worn out, but the disc itself looked clean, well polished, no scratches. It looked completely new. Okay, that was 5 pages, and it's already 30 minutes long, so By the end of this, let me see, I should have more than I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna try to count all that time. Uh, I will say that that's a marked improvement. Well, basically, either Kyle is being possessed and trying to entice him, or he's getting more desperate and is reluctantly trying to. Uh, I don't know. Like it is better that it's naturally this eldritch entity that's trying to coerce Tom into playing the game himself. I will say that there's one inherent flaw with making a remake of a story like this, and I'm not saying this as I'm saying in terms of just making a remake. Um, we know that this story is going to follow certain points beat for beat, and therefore the surprise or the shock factor of this eldritch entity or its intentions are going to be completely. They're not new anymore. They're not inherently frightening. Um, there's a reason why Lovecraftian horror, I'm going to use that example, is so uh, well known at this point, and so it's very effective, and that's because these eldritch beings within the Lovecraftian kind of writing style are backdrops. They're de-emphasized. The effects of their presence are what, in and of itself, are horrifying. It's not horrifying that there's this giant evil being like constantly looming over us. It's this giant being that's within the just by being in our general vicinity, but by just passing by the Earth, is doing so much harm to us without even noticing that we're there. It's that cosmic horror where the universe does not give a single fuck about the human race or what we want or what we fear, and it's frightening to know that something so powerful, there's something in this world so powerful that it can wipe us out and just like that without even noticing that we were there. And when you make it a central threat, when you make it into when you put more emphasis on the being itself, and you drag that to the forefront and use that as the kind of the pillar of your story, you run the risk of kind of just turning everyone off immediately to what you're presenting. Mostly because since it's built around this one entity, you have to write the horror element around this entity as well. So when you do that, when you come to read it for a second time, it's not going to have that initial punch. It's not going to have that crawling on your skin level of fear. We know what X wants. You said right what X wanted in the beginning of this. We know that it's X that's doing this. This eldritch entity that takes the form of Sonic the Hedgehog. So I don't know. Like I'm not really on the edge of my seat reading this, and I'm saying this as someone who's trying to come in this remake with an open mind. It's dead on arrival because you presented the threat, and even in the prologue, you presented the threat. You've explained their motives and their mindset and reasoning behind doing this stuff, and therefore, I am not invested unless you can make these characters so likable that I am invested as to what happens to them. But that's not going to work because I I'm not. I don't think that's unfair to say. JC Hyena wants to push forward the character, so we know in the end he's going to get what he wants, or he's going to win. And really, even if you do manage to get invested in the character, their loss, death, or anything in between is a foregone conclusion. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will like completely subvert my expectations as we go along. I will be try to put these out weekly or bi-weekly. Again, this is 68 pages long, so I'm gonna take my time with this. And you see, this is like going on 30 plus minutes now. Hopefully, the next video will be shorter, and I'll stop stammering over myself. But until then, I hope you all had a happy New Year, and stay tuned for more of these. And again, go subscribe to Fish Stick on a Stick. His videos are great. Go subscribe to Hoodlum's Revenge if you aren't already subscribed. Back Pasta. I'll put all their fucking channels in the description. Why not? And third of clubs, even if he doesn't know the first thing about creepypasta. He's just a really awesome guy. Cheers.